Hello, and welcome to Module 7, related to interest groups. We're trying something new this semester. We're giving everybody an opportunity to get a little bit of security against the final exam by taking a week and learning some material that we hadn't previously covered in this section of the course. Interest groups don't necessarily fit very closely with the political behavior material that we were recently speaking about, but they're an important part of connecting government to the people, at least ideally. And we're going to see in the slide presentation that there is, in fact, a lot of controversy about whether interest groups are generally good or generally harmful to the body politic. After all, if you think about it, it's very difficult for government to communicate with the people. There's many, many people. There's a government full of people who are hearing a lot. Imagine 340 million voices all shouting at once about what they want. And so the theory, at least the pluralist theory behind interest groups, are that interest groups provide everybody an opportunity to have access in a way that government can evaluate the sort of richness of the arguments of each group. Now, of course, in practice, it might not work very much like that at all. And the elite theory of interest groups suggests that it's really powerful groups who are able to ensure their continued power through the operation of interest groups. So anyway, if you watch the slides, I think the slides are particularly informative. Now, I would also encourage you to take a look at the chapter itself. So how is it that I get you to engage this material? Well, one thing that I've done is I've decided that the final exam will have 3 questions from the chapter on interest groups, designed to be something that's very, very approachable for the students who've taken part in this section of the course, while at the same time being extremely difficult for those who have not. And so I would pay a lot of attention to the slide presentation, and I would try to take notes or to otherwise have access to this material. Now, there are 3 bonus questions, so you actually have the opportunity to miss 3 questions on the final exam and still get a 60 out of 60, or perhaps maybe your interest is more in that if you get 54 out of 63, that will still be an A on the final exam. Let's hope that your goal is not that if you can get 36 out of 63, that's still a D. Extra couple hundred words in while doing some much more serious and in-depth research. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be looking at an interest group. And if you read the prompt, you'll have everything that you need in order to know what to write. Don't try, it is after all only a 10-point assignment at most, and for most people a 5-point assignment. So what you're hoping for and what you're trying to accomplish is not exactly the same as writing a term paper or anything like that. And that's not my goal for this assignment. My goal for this assignment is essentially to give everybody an opportunity to get 5 points, or at least 3, to add with their extra chance on the final exam to ensure that students don't, miss out on the next higher grade by a little bit. So read the instructions for the assignment closely. They're fairly long. And then also what I would hope that you would do is read a little bit in the book and try to understand exactly what we're talking about when we're talking about interest groups. It's not going to be sufficient that you just bring to me the level of understanding of interest groups that an average person on the street does, right? We're trying to ensure that students have at least picked up a little bit from Chapter 13. So as you go through the slide presentation, you'll note that we talk about why interest groups exist, what interest group communities look like, the theory behind interest groups. We're going to talk a little bit about how interest groups are able to function in a world where everybody's really trying to be a free rider. Remember, in a perfect world, all of the things that an interest group supplies to you, which is to say, all the benefits for a group or for you that you seek to have, that the interest group has already obtained those goals. You know, if you look back on a social movement like the civil rights movement, right? Your goal is not to, you know, be Martin Luther King and argue for civil rights and then be assassinated and then have some modicum of your goals accomplished. Your goal is that you just wake up one morning and you have freedom. So, in the same way, what are you doing? You're really free riding on the behaviors of people of the past when you do that. Now, it also gives you an insight that maybe being a free rider isn't in and of itself a bad thing, except, I suppose, if you seek to benefit even as there's a need to um, participate. So, so we'll look a little bit into how interest groups overcome that by providing incentives for membership. We'll also look a little bit, though not very much, on things like social movements, on the tactics that interest groups use in order to obtain their goals once they exist and are in operation. Right? It's a very different world for an interest group that represents a powerful and connected member of society, and what we call public interest groups that are seeking to advocate for outsiders, for the disempowered. In any case, I encourage you all to look through this. This will be our last new material. We will start to prepare for the final exam next week after we've gone through this chapter. And remember, the final exam will consist almost entirely of material from chapters 1 through 12, with only these 3 bonus questions on the final exam. 13 points available for chapter 13 in module 7. So I'm sure that numerologists will have a lot of fun with that. So if anybody needs any help, feel free to contact me.